My early influences for my paintings were Franz Marc, with his expressive, richly symbolic, and abstracted animal forms. Marc Chagall, with his surreal yet real expression of human existence, showed me the freedom of true expression in art. Still, I had to find my own voice. I had to liberate myself from my classical training. Finding my own voice, my own path, became the voyage. After art school, I started to paint memories from World War II in Holland. Then came an awareness of my dreams. First, a recurring nightmare. I call it the sound. A child standing on a pontoon bridge. I heard the sound of a bomber coming closer and closer, its engines roaring louder and louder. Then I see a lone child. She can't move or run. The child sees there is no escape. She stands frozen. She covers her ears and screams. I wake up in a fright. How can I paint that sound? How can I paint her gut-wrenching fear? Other dreams followed, opening my vision to mythological themes and non-ordinary reality. I discovered the sacred, healing, and the creative process are interconnected. This adventure is a metaphysical one. I'm in awe of the mystery. Great art deals with powerful archetypes. When an observer views it and spends some time with it, he or she is moved. My paintings reflect my journey into the archetypal realm of dreams, memories, and visions. For the past 40 years, I have explored my inner and outer realities. The images are surreal in nature. Form and color hover between worlds of the luminous and the theatrical in a style that bridges the fantastic and the lyrical. At times, I venture into the abstract and non-objective, yet my palette stays the same, giving me more freedom with bold brushstrokes, always recognizable as my personal style, with an offbeat, luminous colors of that other reality. I was born in Eindhoven, Holland, in 1934. Here I am at 6 months old, being held by my Tante Rie, who stands next to my mother, and my brother Joop, who is 17 years older than me. My sister E.T. is not in the picture, and neither was my father. It was like having 5 parents. These first few years were my golden years. As a 4-year-old, I especially enjoyed nature. Whenever I could, I would climb over the gate and escape to the forest, to my parents' dismay. My father and mother had met as teenagers. They loved to dance during better years. Father was a gymnast and won many prizes. Mother developed her sewing. She could cut out a complicated dress just by looking at the woman's figure. My father was extremely religious. He read a chapter from the Bible to me every day. So he had this old way of telling me what was not allowed. As a child, I could not even go to a movie. That would have been sinful. Everything was sinful. But luckily, my father had this one quality, curiosity. Because of his curiosity, I learned a lot as a child about many things. I was 6 years old when the Nazis invaded Holland. I had looked forward to my first day of school, but now the troops moved into our beautiful two-story brick schoolhouse. At this time also, I experienced a first bombardment, that we were actually bombarded for 5 years during the occupation. We were bombarded, but mostly by the British, our allies. And the first bombardment happened when I was 6. We lived near the Philips factories in Eindhoven, and those were the target. They were forced to make instruments for the Germans. I have to say the British were very good at their targets, but there were stray bombs that would fall on our neighborhood. The fear and sadness I felt at the loss of my piano teacher when I was only 10 years old could never be erased from my memory. It was 1944. Margareta was among the 3 Jews our family hid in our house. She was a musical genius who had been a concert pianist and taught at the Berlin Music Conservatory before the war. One night, my mother had a premonition, an ominous dream. 3 weeks later, the Gestapo came to our house. 2 SS officers in plain clothes. They held a gun to my head, forcing me to sit and be quiet. I saw her leaving. The Germans took Margareta to Auschwitz, to the gas chambers. In my painting, and next to a fading piano, a black dog appears, which later reminded me of the mythical Egyptian god Anubis, who takes the soul to the other side. During this time of terror, malnutrition began to show in our weakened bodies. I'm hungry all the time. I'm 8 years old, and I don't understand why my mother has taken my dolls and books and locked them in a cupboard. I'm not allowed to touch or play with them. My mother tries to explain to me why I can't have my toys and books, but what she says only scares me. One by one, I watch my dolls and books disappear to be traded for food. Many years later, as an adult, I painted my memory of the locked cupboard. My image is reflected in the glass, larger than life, and has taken on a surreal quality. The dream ignites the creative process, tapping into the archetypal realms of the collective unconscious. Dreams serve to nurture me as an artist. Messages from the shadow add mystery. I paint my own myth, the mystery that desires to find expression. Whether I paint the nightmare from the war years as a child in Holland, or a scene from nature with trees, I always rely on memories and dreams. One night, I remember dreaming I am in a cold and barren land of ice. I stand in a misty cloud that obscures my vision. I can't see. I hear heavy footsteps approaching over the ice. Then out of the mist, a golden figure emerges with outstretched wings. The wings envelop me with warmth and comfort. We seem to merge. We walk across the ice to a distant airplane. There stands a group of children huddled in the cold. Our wings open and we unfold the children, warming and comforting them on their journey. Memories don't fade. As I grow older, my memories gain in intensity and depth. For years, I've had flashbacks of my childhood in Holland during the German occupation in 1940. These memories became one of the driving forces in my paintings. Memory ignites my creativity and inspires me to become more of who I am as an artist. Mnemosyne is the mother of the 9 mythical Greek muses, whose name means memory. In my work as a painter, I'm inspired by her. Muse comes from the Greek verb muin, to initiate somebody into the mysteries. We listen to music and visit a museum, a place of the muses. I'm looking at some myths that caught my attention and inspired me to paint. One is called the Apple series, Adam and Eve and Lilith. The story goes that Adam and Lilith, his first wife, were created equal. When she was told to obey Adam, she said no, and then she was cast out of Eden. It's interesting that we see that Lilith seems to have made a comeback in modern mythology. And in my painting, it's interesting. Eve is giving Adam an apple, but she has a whole armful of apples, not just one. I have other paintings of Lilith. Of course, in this one, the snake is wrapped around her and she holds a white owl, a beautiful white owl. Here's a painting called Animal Power. It's part woman, part animal. It's very shamanic. It looks very powerful. It's a dance in moonlight. She has an animal head and eagle wings. I would like to add that my studies and participation in shamanism have helped me greatly with my healing process. Touching the spirit world has also inspired me to take my painting further than I did before. I love painting animals, and animals have a lot of meaning. They carry metaphors for my connection with their nature. I read somewhere that Chief Seattle said, "Whatever happens to the animals will happen to us." When I came back from the Tongan Islands after a 3-week visit, I painted animals. There were a lot of pigs and piglets, piglets nursing from their mother. And I played with light, with color. Here the pigs are blue. Really, the color blue for me is sacred. In the Orient, we see sacred figures that are always painted in blue. Here's another painting I call Confrontation. It's expressed with animals. It's a 2-headed snake threatening a black dog who is threatening the snake. It's called Confrontation, all right. Occasionally, I go back to watercolor, although most of my paintings now are in acrylic. But one particular one The raven and the black tulips remind me of the past, of the difficult warriors. But then behind that are the beautiful colors, the white tulips, the red tulips. And there is a vague image of me passing by with my father and mother behind me. It reminds me, one shaman said, your ancestors stand behind you and they support you. And I have this painting of my mother that we call Oma. And it's very expressionistic. It's in yellows and blues, and she looks really tough. And my brother, who's 17 years older than me, came over after I painted this, and he smiled. He goes, well, that really is mother. And the same with my aunt, Tantri. She is, I think she was the first one that I painted in this style, with these broad brushstrokes and bold colors, and not trying for a photographic likeness, but for the essence of the person. And I was put in an exhibit at the university in Long Beach. And one day I'm walking across campus, and a couple of art teachers stopped me, and they said they had just seen my painting. And one of them said, it's a masterpiece. And I go, really? I didn't expect that. Whether I worked from a model or from friends, relatives, like I love the one I did of my daughter Manon. While I was listening to her playing, the orange glow on her cello turned into its opposite, complementary color. It turned blue. And her face, her right face, turned into this mask. Maybe the music helped my vision. I thought, wow, I have to paint that. Yeah, there always has to be something that sparks my inspiration. In this case, it was that blue cello and that mask on her face that moved. Nothing is ever really static in my paintings. I like for things to move. And the same when I painted my partner shortly after I met him. The pink kimono is what inspired me to paint this image in these bold colors. But then my favorite, it's called The Spirit of Shishi. When we house sat for my friend in Southern California, she had a little black cat that was precious. The cat would put himself around his neck or lay on his book. She would sit in the datura tree. We could swear she was high on datura. Anyway, that became the inspiration for that painting. Another painting here is a nude. By the way, I have many paintings of nudes, female and male. Part of my training in art school was to draw the nude figure. That was a traditional way for artists to study. So here is, it's a nude woman with a snake wrapped around her leg, her thigh, and across her shoulder. And then the snake turns around to look at her. I call this one In the Beginning. And here I have a portrait of myself. It's almost life-size. It's 48 by 36. And it's me with my power animal. and a tree, a winter tree. It's a very expressive kind of painting. Like I said, it's very easy for me to paint reality exactly, but that's not what I'm interested in anymore. I'm more interested in the metaphoric qualities in my paintings. For me to paint a landscape, I would have to have something unusual that inspired me. For example, Lake Poway. When I was rowing on that lake with my little son, the water was like a mirror, and there were these little flips on the coming up on this mirror surface. And somebody thinks I copied Georgia O'Keeffe because she painted clouds like that. But this was from reality. But to me, it's pretty much the way it was. We took a trip to New Mexico and spent 11 days. It was very magical country to me. And I had an encounter with a coyote. I did a painting of this and of Black Mesa. There are a lot of stories around Black Mesa. So all that inspired me to paint. I love painting the elements. There's one painting that I call The Wind, and you can find all kinds of things in this foresty area. Children love to look at this large painting. They can discover things like maybe a flying snake, a hidden bear. I have done several sunsets, and they are inspired by the reflection of the sun on the water, which here reminds me of the I Ching, the 3 lines, the 2 lines, etc. And I have several versions of that. And it's something I can really play with. It leaves room for interpretation, exaggeration. And I've always loved looking at reflections on the water. In this case, I call it the river, which is constantly changing and reflecting the sun in different ways. Like the painting of Canyon Spirits, there's an opening in these stones. I saw faces, and I wanted to emphasize the light. The light is so magical. The light really plays a big part, both in color and intensity. I was invited to create an artwork for a theme-based exhibition on the art of language. For weeks, I went through words, something that could have meaning in a painting. One day, it came to me, a word. The word was abracadabra. I thought, that's it. It's so universal. But the word was also known as abrahadabra. It comes from the Hebraic language. It means speak the blessing. I was very excited. I thought this was perfect for the project. I did several versions. Besides the letters, I show an inner light in the painting. I love to work with light in my paintings, in which I express that inner light that shines from within and connects us to the divine. Art is a creative expression, a record of mankind. The artist, like the shaman, lives between the upper and lower worlds. The artist takes the path in order eventually to become that path. Painting is a journey of discovery. I have found my own voice. My art is my history, a personal mythology.